They say there's other bikes and there's Harleys. So let's just get to the bottom of this. I'm back at Surrey Harley-Davidson here in Dorking, and I'm with, let me get this right, Simon Dankworth.
That's correct.
Hey, did it? Now you're the managing director here, or?
I'm the general manager here.
General manager here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, of course, you are sort of a whole wealth of information on Harley-Davidson.
I would like to think so, yes.
Let's test you out. How did the whole thing start?
Basically, it started back in 1936 when Harley started producing motorcycles in the States. They weren't the first. The Indian motorcycle company was producing motorcycles before them.
Right. And were they rip-offs of in any way, or is it sort of...
They did. It's been said that some of the designs did come from
contention.
India. Yeah.
That early.
But the war years really saw Harley take a march on the Indian company. And that's when Harley started to spread around the world, obviously, from the war machine during the First and Second World Wars.
Yeah.
And that's when we first saw the first Harleys arrive over here in Europe and the UK.
And were they initiators again in the European market? Well, obviously there was the older British bikes. How was that tolerated over here, do you think, back then?
Well, again, the British manufacturers were supplying the British armed forces, and the American manufacturers were supplying the American armed forces. So that's you didn't find very many of the English forces riding Harleys back in those days during the war years, anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But after the war, obviously, the Americans left an awful lot of Harleys lying around over here in Europe. Which was mainly the old 45 cubic inch side valve, as it was called, or flathead.
Flathead.
Flathead, which was the first one over here. And that's where it sort of, in those days, it was really, there wasn't a huge following. It was just, it was a motorcycle.
Yeah. Do you think it would have been to do something with the American fascination of the American allies over here anyway, helping with the war? I think there was kind of a romantic notion even back then, wasn't there, of the...
I think it was more probably like that there was very little motorcycles around after the war, so obviously if they picked up a ex-US Harley 45, they were lucky. Then you go into the 50s, and you saw Harley starting to produce the knucklehead and the panhead models.
Yeah.
And again, with the great 50s sort of American honour, which was gaining momentum over here in Europe. Yeah. Again, a few of the bikes were coming over, just a few, very, very few in those days. And I don't think anyone in the economy in those days could probably afford one anyway. Yeah, yeah. Very few people could.
So they were really expensive back then, because they really are an investment item, aren't they?
That's
They're
right.
Sort of you're riding on some money.
That's right. And there's still some of those 1950s and 60s early knuckleheads and panheads flying around over here in the UK.
Now, I can't really do an honest interview without saying at around about the late 50s, early 60s, of course, there was the rising of the Hells Angels, and the whole of that image of started to take over the Harley-Davidson sort of stomping ground. How has that affected or even promoted Harley-Davidson?
That's right. Well, that's again after the war. A lot of the ex-war veterans decided to strip down the Harleys and become the outlaw or Hells Angels. That's how it all began in the States.
Right. It's all clearing.
And that then filtered over into the UK in a small way. And again, because it was an elite bike, very expensive bike, beyond the reach of most people, again, that's why they ended up riding it. Plus the American contacts, obviously, with the American Hells Angels in the States.
But I mean, today, I mean, it's vast, and there is a kind of a yuppie and a Harley-Davidson snobbery because of the sheer expense. I mean, like bike theft. I mean, it's the bike everybody will want if they're going to take any bikes at all. I didn't really say that for all you sport bikers. But it's slightly worrying that, I'm stood amongst all these beautiful bits of machinery, and there's a lot more place to them than just simply a bike. How has this all evolved now, and how does the market in the 90s stand with it, considering what we've just been talking about?
Right, yes, I was going to say, it's sort of crept up over the years.
Right.
In the early, in the 80s, during the AMF days, which is when Harley were bought out by the American Machine Foundry, I think they were called, big corporation, they bought them out. Again, Harley was at that time gaining a lot of interest in the UK. The economy was picking up. It was, people had money, but unfortunately the product suffered from a quality point of view under the owners. And Harley got a really bad press over that. So consequently, when the family bought back into the company again and got rid of AMF in those days, we saw the quality start to improve.
The family, as in the original founders of Harley-Davidson family,
right,
they all bought back in.
G and that,
excellent.
So the family again bought it. It was like a management buyout sort of thing. or as far as I'm aware anyway, so I'm not a complete expert on this. So we saw the quality start to improve again. So the product was much better.
Right.
So it was a much better product. Then came the Evolution motor, which replaced the shovelhead motor, which was during the AMF days mainly. And with that, the bikes became much more reliable. Again, quality all over the bike.
Mid-80s, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. About 84, 85 was the introduction of the Evolution model, or engine rather. And from then they became more accessible. Yeah. Because they were more reliable. They weren't such an enthusiast machine anymore.
Right.
Albeit they're still very expensive.
Yeah. And
yes, you're right. I think they started to become a fashion accessory, if you like. But later on, probably early 90s, we started seeing them become more of a fashion accessory.
Absolutely, and all the merchandising and marketing around those fashion accessories, which we will be going into. Simon, thank you very much. Well, that's fascinating. Now you know the whole story. No ifs and buts. We'll be back to find out more about the Harley-Davidson experience, and we'll take a look around all the marketing and merchandising, as I said, at a later date. Join us then.